This was not the sort of talk I expected to have when I woke up yesterday. The world has changed a lot in 15 years, but what intelligence services do really hasn't. And I want to start with that because while their practices haven't changed, the scale of them has. And that's what really brought me forward. It's not that, the government was spying on somebody. They've always done that. It was the government was spying on everybody. And it wasn't that they didn't want to do that in the past, but that they didn't have the capability to do it. We were talking about things that were the Stasi's, wet dream. And now we see that creeping everywhere. Pavel Durov, the founder of Telegram, was one of the people that I tweeted about a few weeks ago. I had hoped to speak about here because I think this really emblematizes what has changed. So for those who are unfamiliar, just a few weeks ago, we saw a well-coordinated effort by the old powers to gain control over Telegram by taking its founder, Pavel Durov, as, frankly, a hostage in France. Now, they had been complaining publicly that Telegram, which is not a meaningfully secure messenger, by the way, please don't call it a secure messenger when you're describing it to your friends. It's more like a standard chat group that has DMs attached. It does have one capability to send end-to-end encrypted texts called secret chats, but almost no one uses it, right? Anyway, the state apparatus of the US and Europe had been complaining that Telegram had not been providing them enough control over its ecosystem, the ability to shut down channels at will, as they do on Facebook and everybody else, to dox their users. Now, because of some weaknesses in Telegram's design as a service, Telegram did have this ability. So the governments knew Telegram could be doing this if they wanted to, but Telegram apparently did make at least some efforts to resist demands to share this ability for what that's worth. So what happens? Durov is lured to France under whatever pretext. I think it's even public now. He's immediately tossed in the dungeon, and presto changeo, a few days later, he's out on bail, and Telegram changes its terms of service. That is the unfortunate reality of how the world works when you don't architect your service to resist state interference at the protocol level. And that's what's so special and powerful about crypto broadly, Bitcoin specifically. But, it's that kind of mentality where you design against the worst possible case to avoid the inevitable. Now, in Durov's case, I hope he gets out. And once he's in a free place, he genuinely fixes the design problem that put him in the hot seat in the first place by creating a service that does not put too much power and data in vulnerable human hands. You have to design your app so that there will never be a head that the state can point a gun at, or they will do it. But the real lesson here, why it's so important, is not about Durov. It's not about Telegram. It's about us. We are all entering a new phase of history where what we considered the more enlightened collection of states globally, ones that had embraced the classically liberal ideal, and I want to clarify here that I'm talking about the supremacy of the individual's right to themselves, the right to decide and direct one's life, rather than whatever it is that political parties are branding as liberalism today. The governments of these states that used to champion that ideal are now some of those working hardest to roll it back, to bureaucratize, to influence, to nudge, to shape, to ultimately control each and every individual within their territory and beyond, to the extent made newly possible by technology. This is not a different story than 2013. This is the same. Now, in their defense, these states genuinely seem to believe that this is the path to utopia, that they genuinely know what is good for you to a greater extent than you do, because they're the expert. Everyone in this community, knows the memes, whether you're going to eat the bugs or whatever. The thing to remember is that this is a story that we have seen play out in history before. You have the experts telling you to go out into the field and kill the sparrows. And now we're in the moment where we're waiting to see what's going to happen next. It seems to me that these proposals are less interested in surveillance than they are in control. They're laying the procedural framework for the global control of the voices of every volume. And that's what it's really about. It's not that they're worried about some secret conversation. It's not that they're trying to shake down Durov for the keys to some conversation. It's that they see people talking in ways that they don't like, ways that they consider to be misinformation, ways that they consider to be disinformation, ways that they consider to be socially harmful, that they consider to be structurally undesirable, and they want to silence it. And that is dangerous. That's the point of no return. We lose that, there's no coming back. Which brings us to modernity and all the ways that it's changing around us. This was not the sort of talk I expected to have when I woke up yesterday, which I spent much of the day reading about Israel's unprecedented campaign of what by all what by all reports appears to be indistinguishable from terrorist bombings. Consumer electronics across countries simultaneously exploded in pockets. Hands, faces. Cars lost their drivers in mid-motions. Pockets exploding, at checkout lines, at the head height of your children. Now, it's not the first time that we've ever seen a remote bomb, but it is the first time that we've ever seen a broadcast bombing at this scale, a message sent over public communication systems that reaches consumer electronics that are lying in wait, because this is how pagers work, right? It's not like one-to-one, these things are chiming back, they're checking in, they're phoning home. They're just listening to the equivalent of radio. They hear the signal and they go off. The person who's triggering it doesn't know who you are. They don't know where you're at. They don't know whether you're holding it, your child is holding it, and demonstrably, they do not care. You don't need to take a position on the legitimacy of whatever the hell it is today, Hamas or Hezbollah, or any of Israel's targets, one way or the other, to realize that they have broken a taboo that is very, very dangerous for the comfortable life that we, in sort of the developed part of the world, have cocooned ourselves with. Nearly every single one of you is carrying a remotely controllable device on your person that you have not opened and inspected for explosives. You probably can't even open it. And even without the explosives, right? You go, oh, I'm not worried about the Mossad, right? The batteries in your phone, in your laptop, in your electric car, they hold tremendous amounts of embodied energy. And even if it's not going to explode in the same violent way, they can absolutely catch fire. You can go look at a line of them on YouTube. These are things that will not far in the future be able to burn your house down while you sleep as it's on the charger in the other room at the push of the button. And who could we blame, right? It wasn't China that started this. And this brings me to the last thing, which is the rejection of our traditions by some in our community. I saw this recently, and I don't want to be unfair to Saylor, but be contrary to his point here, because I haven't followed it closely. But I saw someone digging up old quotes here, and they were saying, I'll read this, that we don't need to talk about like the anarchist angles of Bitcoin. We don't want to talk about privacy. We don't want to talk about the uninterceptable design. We don't want to talk about the fact that no one can silence it, no one can stop it, because that's going to make billionaires uncomfortable. And they want to be investing in something. They want it to be regulated. They want it to be controlled. They want it to be something that works for them. And I think that's absolutely wrong. We need to talk about the rules, values of the system, the crypto part of cryptocurrency. That's what makes it special. I don't care if it makes billionaires uncomfortable. I don't care if it makes JP Morgan slower to allocate. They don't get a vote. Because frankly, they're coming along on this ride, whether they like it or not. The dollar is done. Nothing stops this train, as Lynn Alden says it. Debasement is baked into our models. We see what's happening with the percentage of currency issuance, the deficit spending. It might not happen this year. It might not happen next year. It might not happen in 5 years. But it's very clear looking at the progress of history where these things end. We are in the age of paper, but it is on the decline. It is coming to the end. It's not about any flag. It's about the method. It's what the system is built on. There is no basis, no strong foundation. So we as a community need to focus on keeping alive the thing that made our currency prosper, where all the others have failed.